So as we begin to draw our forces down in Afghanistan, one of the key issues, I think, in the mind of the American and the NATO commander, and certainly in the minds of the Afghan leadership, is how will we posture the forces in the aftermath of our drawdown and in the period of time of 1 January 2015 on to be able to deal with the safe havens and the organizations that will continue almost certainly to operate out of those safe havens. And we can talk about that in the Q&A, but that was certainly something that was on my mind constantly, as well as I know it is on the mind of the current commander. One of the things that became clear to us as we took these organizations apart in an intelligence manner was what we considered to be a triangular relationship between the ideological insurgency, criminal patronage networks, and criminality, and the drug enterprise. We first saw it in Afghanistan in the north and in the west, but very clearly when we applied that kind of thinking to what we were seeing unfold along the frontier between Pakistan and Afghanistan, we could see the rough contours of the same kind of relationship. So just as Mueed said, as the Pakistani military, and I spent a great deal of time in Rawalpindi and in Islamabad with General Kayani and his leadership, hoping ultimately to plan bilateral operations along the frontier. As they were able to achieve some level of progress in their clear, hold, build, and transfer counterinsurgency campaigns, the reality for them was that they could clear an area. They might hold that area, but transitioning ultimately to the build and the transfer was really problematic because the institutions of government and governance and the resources just weren't there. And so larger and larger elements of the Pakistani military were fixed in place in larger and more expansive areas as they had to hold on to ground that couldn't be transferred ultimately to bring to a conclusion what you would want to have happen in a counterinsurgency campaign, which is getting at the underlying causal factors associated with the reason the insurgents exist to begin with. And then finally, the other aspect with respect to the insurgencies in general was our concern that, in fact, that region along the frontier and more broadly the emergence of this virulent witch's brew of syndicated terrorist organizations in Pakistan was being aided and in some respects accelerated by a foreign presence. I know the Chinese are very interested in the Uyghur presence in Chitral, in Bilget, in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and the federally administered tribal areas. We frequently could hear the chatter in Chechen and in the IMU, the Uzbek dialects, as well as Arabic. And so where Syria has today become a place where jihadis can move to the sound of the guns and get their ticket punched for having been involved in some form of an active combat effort, we had a substantial number of foreign fighters that were assisting those insurgent groups on the eastern side of the frontier in Pakistan.